In a strange twist of political fate, the Obama administration is now finding itself practically begging its left-wing base to support its decision to try to strike the Assad regime. Secretary of State John Kerry has appeared on left-wing cable channels to make the case and has even written an op-ed in the Huffington Post. So how's this all playing out in left-wing land? With us now, former Congressman and Fox News contributor Dennis Kucinich and Democratic strategist Simon Rosenberg. Okay, Congressman, I saw you earlier and I said, the world has totally gone mad. You and I are on the same page on a major issue facing this country. It's wild,
well,
right?
Together again at last.
Yeah, see, Congressman?
And I also, in response to Secretary Kerry, have a post on Huffington Post called "The Top 10 Unproven Claims for War Against Syria."
Oh, so you've answered him on HuffPo.
Well, you know, whatever came first.
So what's going on? Nancy Pelosi, we heard earlier from our Time Magazine bureau chief, has been flogging Capitol Hill to try to whip up support for this war, if they're not calling a war. And she's a loyal foot soldier, to keep the analogy going, is she not?
Well, she is. I did an analysis of the reports that came out today of the members who voted against the Iraq war who have switched to vote for the Syrian war. And so far, only 11% of those who voted against the Iraq war, that was 126 Democrats, roughly have claimed that they're now going to switch to vote for approval for a war against Syria. That's contrary to Secretary Kerry's claim that, you know, many Democrats are switching. They're not. I think Democrats will hold pretty solid in voting by a large majority against this.
Simon, we've heard that members of the Congressional Black Caucus have been urged, and we don't know if it's by Pelosi or others, maybe Congressman Kucinich will know, to kind of stand down on this, which I find actually demeaning. I mean, to keep quiet if you're against it. Please try not to say much. I mean, you know, we need a free Syrian army. We need to free liberals on Capitol Hill to be able to speak about this. I mean, come on. Kendrick Meek was out there. He was pretty tough against Kerry earlier.
I don't think Democrats have been that quiet. I'm not sure they're heeding that advice. But look, this is a tough issue for both parties, and I don't know where we're going to end up next week. The president's speech is going to matter a lot. I think he's got a shot at winning this thing. I think there's still a lot of people who are undecided or leaning one way or the other, and I think he's going to have to make a better case on Tuesday night than he's been making the last couple of weeks if he wants to win next week.
I mean, I watched him, Congressman, in St. Petersburg, where I spent a glorious summer in college as a student, and I kind of watched him there, and I thought to myself, is this the best you have for going into war? Was that the best performance? And it's hard to say that, because you want to be proud of your commander-in-chief, of your president, traveling overseas and criticizing. It's not fun. I'm not taking glee in this.
No,
I'm really not.
Listen,
and if McCain were doing it, I'd be saying the exact same thing.
And I believe that. And we want our president to succeed, but he's trying to succeed in a war where he hasn't made the case. And there are so many unproven claims.
What's the number one unproven claim?
Well, I think that...
I mean, people agree that chemical weapons were used, but there's not a... And even most members of the G20 believe that Assad was behind the use of the chemical weapons,
well,
I believe.
They claim the opposition hasn't used chemical weapons. Well, there's plenty of reports, including from the UN, that they have. They claim that they have this intelligence about the mixing of chemicals by the regime. There's a lot of fuzziness about that, and a big thing that I think a central thing are these transcripts that they claim to have overheard a conversation between officials of the Assad government. But these haven't been released. We don't know what language they were recorded in. We don't know if they were retranslated. This is a central basis for war. And one other point, Laura. A lot of this is classified. I mean, we can't have a classified sales pitch for war. That's fundamentally wrong in a democratic society. You got to come clean with the public, let them know exactly what the case is for war. All these secret briefings, and the public is told, well, this is classified. We can't tell you. What?
Simon, if the president, contrary to what you kind of heard from his spokesperson today, if the president goes ahead after Congress says no, which I'm going to wager I think it's going to be, I think they might not even bring it up to a vote in the House. That's how bad I think it's going to get for him. If that ultimately happens, that's a big if, but if it does, and the president decides anyway to go ahead, what do you think the reaction will be in this country to doing that? I think that's a real possibility.
Well, I think in part it depends on what happens in the next week in the kind of case the president makes to the American people next week. Look, I think the president has a good case to make. I don't know that they've been making it. I think the argument that we'll hear him make is that Assad is a bad actor and been exporting a lot of bad stuff outside of his own borders for a long time, and he should go, which is the current policy.
Right, except the world doesn't want to do anything. Nobody in the world community is willing to spend one real dime or one life of one soldier to take out Assad, except the big bad world police of the United States of America. That's the shocking thing about this.
I understand, but I also think that this happened late in August. The president really hasn't been aggressive about making his case. I think they're refining it, and I think there are three pieces really quickly, right? One is Assad's a bad actor; he's got to go. Second is that it's going to weaken, but it's going to weaken Iran. And third, it's going to prevent, as long as we stay involved in the civil war, we're going to prevent al-Qaeda from taking power in Syria. Those are strong cases. He's got to make it next week. I think he can turn this thing around next week.
Prediction, Congressman.
Well, you know, right now, that House defeats it.
House defeats it. Gentlemen, we appreciate it. Up next.